Good morning, my Ohana. Welcome to my little sewing space. I just wanted to have a conversation with y'all. We are, or I have a PJ sew party on our Discord channel or my Discord channel this morning. I am filming this. This is what I generally look like when I'm sewing in the early hours of the morning. Now, my husband and I have been awake since 2 a.m. Eastern Time. And so I came in here, and the mornings are where I get my best sewing done. I'm pretty much non functional in the afternoons. I have to do smaller projects. But really, what I wanted to talk about was we've all been there, especially for people who have quilted for a while and we want some change, or we just do not know what our next project is. I know that I have chosen to slow it down for the next 2 months or for November, the rest of the year, for the rest of 2025. I'm just going to slow it down, sew what I want to sew, and but the problem is, what do I want to sew? I have two projects up in my project boxes just waiting for 2026. And I have to fight the urge almost daily not to get ahead of myself and cut into them. These are my 2026 projects, and they are going to last me, I hope, the whole 2026. I know dear Jane will. So I was looking for a project, and I have several vintage sewing machines that do get very dusty. I pulled out Emma, which is my featherweight, last week, and I sewed on her because it's good to run your sewing machines all the time. And then I have a 1591 that I have decided that I'm going to call name Lydia. And Lydia, Emma, y'all know about George. George is my long arm sit down machine. And I have a few other machines that really need a cover because my sewing room does get very dusty from the fabric, from everyday dust and dander, and also from my batting when I quilt. So I was looking for a project, and I decided I was going to make some covers, but nothing really big. And I thought, well, this is a good time to incorporate or learn smaller projects and do in doing something that I enjoy doing, which is learning. Now, I'm not an EPPer. Is that correct? EPP. I do not do EPP. I work on a computer all day long, and by the end of the night, just the tiny stitches holding that needle, it's just too much for me. And I worked on FPP for about 2 weeks, and I decided that was not for me either. The sewing space is my mental health getaway. But I love curves. And so I am working on a cover, and I wanted to incorporate some circles, but I did not want to do the standard drunkard's path and just, sew them all together. So I went ahead and got my drunkard's path templates, cut some squares, folded those in quarters so I could come out with a full circle. And I did the same with the squares for what is the black, the outline of my circles. And I just said, and there is waist. Now, this is the waist that I have from what I cut earlier, from those, what I cut earlier, and but I can use it in a scrappy project, so I'm not worried about that. These are actually colors that I enjoy. I like bright colors in my sewing room, um, because I'm not a very bright person. I actually do not wear bright clothes, and so it surprises me sometimes that I love those bright colors and textures. So I'm just going to toss that aside for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly sew the circle, and I'm going to see if, let's see if I can do this, if I can get it over here and get you in a camera position. So that's a good position right there. I do have my pins. Okay, you'll need a hot iron, and I will say that I do half and half starch, so a 50-50 combination of starch, because this works the best. And like I said, this is pajama sewing, early morning sewing, so things kind of look messy as far as my appearance. But you know what? I'm in my sewing room by myself. And let me see if I can just zoom out a little bit more on here. And I know that I'm cut off. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pin it. And I did iron my circle. I pressed it down, and I pressed it down in quarters, folded it again, and pressed it that way so I have good lines to match up the lines that were previously pressed into the backing or to the other piece of fabric. And now I'm slowly just gonna stick some pins. And truly, when I do a drunkard's path, I normally do not pin. I just go slow. But for this particular, for doing a full circle, I did find that pinning was a lot easier, so I did not get any pleats. And so I'm just lining that up on each quarter. Just go ahead and line it up, matching those pressed seams together. And if you notice, I am putting my pins on the border fabric facing me. And then I'm just going to kind of eyeball the point to that quarter or that 1/8. So right about that middle, and you just eyeball it because it will work out. Now, the whole thing about curves, and again, I love curves. I love curve sewing, and I like to experiment with different type of curve sewing. And sometimes I just do not want all those extra seams that a true drunkard's path does. And I did not want to applicate a circle. I just wanted to have fun in the sewing room. Ooh, let me do that one as well. Okay. And the whole purpose of this is just to sit down and enjoy the experience because, again, we like to sew. I think, let me repin that right there. Things are a lot harder on camera. And this goes rather quickly. So what you're doing, you're just finding a point between your two pins, straightening that out, putting it under your I do have my stitch length dropped to 2.0, and I'm using the 1/4 inch mark of my foot. Okay. And I'm not going to backstitch. I'm just going to go move it real slow, and you will see that everything just lines up very nicely if you go slow enough. Now, if you go too fast, you might sew off the line. You want to keep your edge of your fabric always on that 1/4 mark, and that will help you to make the turn. And sometimes you do have to fiddle with the fabric a little just to get it. You want to make sure there are no pleats. Use your fingers and go slow. You want to make sure that there are no pleats when you're sewing it. And you want to make certain that your fabric is lined up, just as you would when you're piecing squares. And just remember, it's just a little more fiddly. There's nothing very hard about this. You're just going slower, taking smaller sections at a time as you sew. So if you're one of those fast sewists, if you like to just hit your sewing pedal, you might want to move your speed down so you can't go too quickly. You can't get ahead of yourself. And again, it is a slower process. So I'm just going to go ahead and and this is real time. I'm not going to speed this up so you can see exactly how long it takes me. There's no, it takes you as long as it takes you. This is a 6-inch drunkard's path. And then as I come right here and I'm going to flatten it, let's see what I can flatten down so you can see it. There's a slight pleat there. I'm going to pull out my pin. It just means that I did not quite line it up correctly. And it is all going to work out. Trust that ruler. If you utilize the ruler and you cut it correctly, everything should work out fine. And we do not have too far to go. And now you can see that I use the border fabric on the top because it's easier for me to get my hands up under if I have to manipulate that fabric in any way. If I have the circle or the bigger piece on top, it's a little further for my hands to work. And for some, this may be aggravatingly slow. Now I'm just kind of fiddling with this part to make sure that everything is right back there. So it's going to look like. So let's go ahead and do this. Let me bring you down so you can see it. Excuse my camera. I'm not going to edit this. So I'm going to scoot you down. Excuse my PJs. But like I said, that we are going to be sewing in Discord, and you are more than welcome. If you do not have a sewing group, if you do not have people to hang out with, if you have no sewing circle, you're more than welcome to join Discord. The only thing I request is that you are a subscriber. You do not need to be a member to hang out in the Discord room. And if you will email me at awkwardquilterga@gmail.com, I will verify who you are and send you a link. And in the Discord, you will be able to meet up with some very, very talented people. They sew in there during the week. Generally, I do not sew during the week. I do make it on Thursday afternoons. We do have a sewing, what we call sewing at Lisa's house. And we just hang out for about 2 hours in the afternoon. So it's nice and flat. And if you need to hit it with a little bit more starch, that's fine. I'm going to move that. Let me move my starch. Let me move this. So I'm going to kind of eyeball it, fold it in half. I want to make a crease with my fingers. Go the opposite way. Fold it in half. Make a crease with my fingers and a point. These are going to finish off at 10 inches. And I'm just lining up my ruler on the 5-inch mark, finding that crease, which is a little difficult when you're sitting down. Excuse me. So I'm just finding my mark and lining up everything the best that I can. It's a circle, so, you know. The ruler slipped a little there. But again, it's just going to be a 10-inch circle. And I can see where it slipped. And there you go. It is going right in the middle. And just like that. Right in the middle. And that's it. That is all I'm doing. Let me lift it back up. That is all I'm doing. It's a simple 9 patch. And excuse me, and I will show you what I do with this to complete the cover for Lydia, my 1591. So I will show you what that looks like. I just wanted to hop on and say, hey, I'm there with you when it comes to early morning sewing or afternoon sewing. You do not need to be all gusset up or anything else. I also welcome you to join Discord. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed this short video. Again, it is unedited. Until next time, my ohana, be blessed, be kind, keep sewing. Bye.